It's Monday, August 10th. This is CTV News at 6. Making news tonight. An evacuation in downtown Halifax. What forced people out of the downtown and what police are saying. And a dangerous ride in Moncton as two teens were seen riding half in and on top of a moving car.
We still have a muggy feel to the air at the start of this week, but humidity will come down on Wednesday.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Jesse Thomas.
Good evening. Todd Battis is off tonight. Traffic heading in and out of the downtown core slowed to a crawl in Halifax this morning, and it remained that way for much of the day as Halifax Regional Police dealt with a bomb threat. As CTV's Brianne Foley explains, though, no one was hurt from the incident, but tens and thousands of people had their Monday heavily impacted.
As of 8:47 a.m. Monday morning, Halifax Regional Police arrested a man on Thomas Riddell Drive near the Canada Game Centre and evacuated the parkade at Purdy's Wharf in downtown Halifax due to a bomb threat.
Actually started last night on August 9th at shortly after 6 p.m. Police became aware of a bomb threat that was received by the U.S. consulate in Purdy's Wharf, located here on Upper Water Street in Halifax. Police were able to identify the male who made the bomb threat to the consulate, and from there started immediately to locate that male. It wasn't until 8:10 this morning when police located that male's vehicle in the parkade at Purdy's Wharf. Inside the vehicle, there was propane tanks. There were containers containing other flammable liquids. At that time, police called out the Halifax Regional Police Explosive Disposal Unit, who attended.
The evacuation was expanded at 10:15 a.m. to include Barrington at Amalamak Way, Duke Street down to Upper Water Street, Brunswick Street at Dr. Aldred Waddle to Cogswell, evacuating hotels, businesses, and instructing pedestrians to leave the area.
We were staying at the Delta Halifax Hotel for the Comedy Fest. We were here since Thursday night, and we were ready to check out in about 2 hours' time. We were just trying to decide if we should go to the pool or go for breakfast. So yeah, all of a sudden our decision was made for us, and it was like, speaker in the room, evacuate by police order. So.
Because I need to go to the U.S. consulate for the visa interview. Yeah, it took months to get a available time slot. It's not easy. You can tell. I live in Vancouver. I fly 6 hours there.
The evacuation lasted until 2 p.m. Monday when police began removing caution tape blocking the surrounding streets.
Around 2 o'clock, it was determined by the EDU that there was no longer a risk or a threat to the public, and we started to open the downtown core.
Now, because the investigation was ongoing during the noon hour, Citadel Hill was asked not to fire off the gun today. The 54-year-old remains in custody and under investigation, and police say he could appear in court as soon as Tuesday. Brianne Foley, CTV News, Halifax.
The man who is the subject of an emergency alert in Halifax over the weekend is facing over a dozen charges, including attempted murder, after a woman was shot in the Annapolis region. A police chase and search ended in a wooded hiking trail in the Bedford area. CTV's Vanessa Wright has the latest.
Oh my God, they got him. Oh my God, yo, turn the camera. On camera. They got him.
The moment police caught 36-year-old Ryan Alexander Cole, ending an hours-long manhunt. CTV captured the arrest while speaking with a witness.
So the cops didn't see him come up here. We were the only ones who saw him come up here. So the cops drove by Sunnyside Mall, and we ran onto the road and flagged them down. And so we flagged them down.
Oh my God, they got him. Oh my God, yo, turn the camera. On camera.
They got him.
Cole was arrested at around 12:40 p.m. Saturday afternoon, but the events leading up to it began just after 7 a.m. that morning. Police allege he was involved in the shooting of a woman outside a home in Nova Scotia's Annapolis Valley.
Upon arrival, officers found a 31-year-old victim who had suffered a gunshot wound. She was transported to hospital by EHS with life-threatening injuries.
From there, police say Cole fled the area in a Mazda. The chase continued in Bedford behind Sunnyside Mall, where the suspect crashed his car before taking off on foot.
He is facing a number of charges. First most is the attempted murder charge, as well as a number of firearms offenses, which would be discharging a firearm, careless use of a firearm, possession of a firearm contrary to order, possession of a weapon for a dangerous purpose, and a few others.
Today, much of the concern has subsided, but some employees at Sunnyside Mall say they were disappointed with how the situation was handled. This employee did not feel comfortable showing her face.
It was scary. I mean, we felt that we were being told things were safe, but looking back on it, we realized we really weren't safe. So we feel the mall should have been locked down. The main mall doors never were locked during the whole situation. Retailers closed, but none of the actual mall doors had been locked.
The general manager of Sunnyside Mall declined our request for comment. Meanwhile, RCMP say they are still working on finding the firearm used by the alleged suspect. Cole was expected to appear in Digby Provincial Court today. Vanessa Wright, CTV News, Bedford.
And in other news online, you can read about the sentencing of a Nova Scotia correctional officer for bringing cannabis into a correctional facility. Visit our website, ctvnewsatlantic.ca. And police in Moncton are investigating a dangerous driving incident that took place in the city yesterday. It left witnesses shaken in fear for the safety of the youths involved in the reckless stunt. That was all captured on video. CTV's Derek Haggett with the latest details.
It's hard to believe the video is real, but it is. Teenagers on top and hanging out of a moving car on busy Von Harvey Boulevard in Moncton yesterday afternoon. A woman in the passenger seat behind them captured it all and posted it on social media.
When I saw them kind of climb onto the vehicle and then, stand up with no hands, I was, again, just shocked. Like, am I actually capturing this? Are these kids that stupid?
When she later called 911, the dispatcher said they had already received thousands of calls and police were trying to locate the vehicle.
We could not get over the brazenness. I was so scared that one of the kids were going to fall. I was going to see something that I didn't want to see, and somebody would potentially run over them.
This woman says she saw what appears to be the same black Chevy sedan with the same passengers driving on the sidewalk in the north end of the city shortly after the video was taken.
There was a lot of reckless endangerment here, and they continued on. They came back into this parking lot. They did donuts, and when they sped out, they nearly hit 2 cars along the way.
Early this afternoon, a spokesperson for the New Brunswick RCMP tells CTV News they are aware of the video circulating online and they are gathering information on the incident. The video has been viewed close to 300,000 times.
I wanted the parents to see that this is what your kids are doing, but I also was hoping that the RCMP would see it too, because this was just so brazen and so stupid that I just couldn't get over that this is what we were watching, and they were just so erratic with their driving. As of late this afternoon, there was no further update from the police. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Moncton.
And just prior to our broadcast, RCMP did in fact provide an update. Police say the vehicle, which was reported stolen, was located in a ditch in Memramcook yesterday. Last night, police located and arrested 2 of the teens involved. A third later turned themselves in. The 3 youths, a 16-year-old boy, a 14-year-old boy, and a 16-year-old girl, have all been released from custody and are scheduled to make a court appearance at a later date. And some dramatic storm cells moved through the region over the weekend. Lots of lightning in places here, like in Moncton last night. This was taken around 11 p.m. Just some of the region, we were referring to it as a heat lightning. But Kaylin Mitchell is going to join us now to tell us a little bit more about it. Kaylin.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse. So we certainly had great conditions this past weekend for lightning, seeing some of the video footage there for thunderstorms, because we had lots of heat, we had humidity, and we had a little weather front moving in to kind of lift that up and get those thunderstorms to develop. I'm sure we're all familiar with lightning. It's when we get a charge that builds up in those storm clouds. That charge needs to ground itself, and it does that through lightning, and that can either be from cloud to ground or from cloud to cloud or even within the same cloud. Now, what heat lightning is that same lightning, but viewed or noticed at a much greater distance, usually when that storm cloud is far, far away, even over the horizon. So what people are seeing is the flashes from the lightning of that storm cloud, but they're not seeing much of the cloud itself, maybe only the very top part of it, or even the lightning flashes reflected by even higher cloud up in the atmosphere. And because it's so far away, you don't even really hear the thunder with it, so it's not even really associated with the typical sort of lightning storm that we would if it was, basically on our doorstep. So that's what led to the term heat lightning. Often occurs during summertime because that's when we get our best conditions for thunderstorms. We get that heat and humidity building up. So heat lightning, it's the same lightning. One of them is just being viewed at a far, far distance as far as the location of the storm goes. Now, speaking of thunderstorms, for the Maritimes for this evening, not much of a risk of thunderstorms. Low chance that something could drift into the northwest New Brunswick over the next couple of hours. That would be coming to an end as we move later into this evening. There is a weather front, another one, coming in over the St. Lawrence River Valley in through Quebec that is going to return some showers with the risk of thunderstorms to the Maritimes for tomorrow. In the meantime, though, for the rest of this evening and tonight, there are expected to just be a few clouds around for most of the region, a little bit cloudier for parts of the north of New Brunswick, and some fog patches developing. In the night sky for tonight, it's a waning crescent moon, 5% illumination. That'll be rising with the planet Mercury just before sunrise tomorrow, so it's down for most of the night. You can spot the planet Venus setting on the western horizon this evening. And again, the peak of the Perseids meteor shower is coming up on the nights of August 12th to 13th. The radiant point is high over the northeastern horizon, and that one is best viewed late at night, midnight onward. And of course, you'd want to find some nice open skies, give your eyes time to adjust. You want good night vision, and you need patience, Jesse, to spot some of those meteors.
Thanks for that, Kalen. We'll check in with you in about 15 minutes for the full forecast. Back to news now. A St. John resident is looking for answers as to who will clean up an encampment site that she says is encroaching on her private property. CTV's Avery McRae spoke with the resident today to learn more about the issue and the challenges associated with it.
This is the scene behind Megan Goligan's home. It's a treasure trove of garbage, clothing, and other items left by a presumed homeless encampment, and she wants something done about it.
I lose sleep because I'm terrified my house is going to catch on fire, or somebody's going to break in, or my kids are going to be out and get hurt. It's really scary.
Goligan is one of a handful of property owners dealing with the issue. The encampment site lies on a mix of city-owned Rockwood Park and residents' private properties. She wants to know who is responsible for cleaning it up before spending thousands of dollars herself.
I need answers, like what's going to happen?
She has reached out to the city and has not heard back, and has also spoken with Fresh Start Services, a group who worked with the city's homeless to address the matter. Fresh Start Executive Director Melanie Vautour says her team has visited the site numerous times.
It's actually been abandoned for a long time. We can't say for certain if it's actually a site or if it started as maybe a bit of garbage dumping that ended up spreading out.
Vautour says they get a lot of calls this time of year from residents concerned about encampments on their properties, and says many times they are false alarms. Derek May, whose parents' property backs onto the encampment site, says while visible encampments aren't as present as they once were uptown, the situation isn't improving.
The real question is these places that we establish for people that are experience homelessness, why do they have a 25% vacancy rate right now? We need to support agencies that are actually helping people move beyond just homelessness.
Fresh Start says there are about 600 homeless people in the greater St. John area. The city of St. John did not provide an interview, but in a lengthy statement, they say the encampment and associated debris is located on city property, not the private property of residents. They say steps have been taken to address the matter, but did not provide a timeline. Avery McRae, CTV News, St. John.
And fewer than half of Eastern Canadian premiers attended a scheduled conference in the U.S. with American governors. The two-day event comes just a week before a 50% U.S. tariff is set to go into effect on a list of goods. CTV's Anna Mandan reports on what this means for cross-border collaboration.
A meeting between Eastern premiers and New England governors in Vermont on Sunday and Monday garnered a small turnout. Only Nova Scotia and PEI's premiers were part of the Canadian contingent, while New Brunswick, Newfoundland and Labrador, and Quebec's premiers sent representatives in their place. In an emailed statement on Friday, New Brunswick's Director of Communications said Premier Susan Holt was staying in the province to focus on priorities at home. While a press secretary for Newfoundland and Labrador, Premier Tony Wakeham, says the conference continues to be an important collaboration. But University of Prince Edward Island political scientist Don Deserud says this could mark a turning point in inter-border partnerships.
The instability of the system is such that they can make all the agreements they want, and then tomorrow we'll find out that they're all null and void because of another change in policy.
Provinces, he says, may be backing off on negotiations to allow the federal government to take a lead. The threatened 50% tariffs on Canadian goods are set to go into effect next week. But Deserud says the cross-border impact could be long-lasting.
Over time, you want to maintain these relationships because eventually these are going to have to, they will come back and they will be very, very valuable.
Meanwhile, not all leaders skipped the conference. Nova Scotia's Premier Tim Houston was in attendance. And in an emailed statement, he says now is a critical time to strengthen existing ties and that removing tariffs is a priority. Anna Mandan, CTV News, Fredericton.
And the New Brunswick government is looking for proposals to create 360 new long-term care beds as part of its plan to ease pressure on hospitals. Projects could include new facilities, expansions, renovations, or converting existing beds to long-term care beds. Proposals will be assessed based on readiness, local demand, costs, and construction timelines. The process is non-binding, and no project will move ahead until a formal exploration agreement is reached. A massive Amazon distribution center is under construction in Dartmouth. It could lead to even faster delivery times for parcels. The facility could employ up to 1,500 people, but one retail analyst says the news isn't all positive. CTV's Jonathan McGuinness has more.
In the not-too-distant future, these Amazon trucks will be leaving from a newer and much bigger facility.
It is about the size of 3 of the current IKEAs, so it's a massive, massive footprint.
Amazon is moving its distribution center from one end of the Burnside Industrial Park to the other. Right now, the site is being cleared by dozens of pieces of heavy equipment. The building will be more than 1 million square feet, and consumers could see even shorter delivery times.
We could be talking about same-day delivery here in the city. That's the hopes and aspirations of Amazon, to improve that distribution network and that delivery time to their end consumer.
The CEO of the Downtown Dartmouth Business Commission says the city is on a roll when it comes to attracting major investments like this one.
It's like a snowball. Once that snowball starts rolling, it kind of just keeps rolling. And so we're attracting these large sorts of employers like Amazon, and we're also attracting a lot of investment through the Defense Initiative.
The news isn't all positive.
The reputation of Amazon as an employer, not the best.
Retail expert Doug Stevens says the distribution super company has its flaws, even if it is bringing between 1,000 to 1,500 jobs to the area.
This facility, first of all, is opening against the backdrop of a closing of a facility in Quebec not that long ago. And the catalyst for that closing was that the employees were unionized in Quebec, and Amazon wants nothing to do with unions.
Stevens says there's a fine line between the quantity of jobs and the quality of those jobs. And Jesse, at over 1 million square feet, this will be the largest Amazon facility east of Ontario. The company has yet to announce an official opening date. Jesse.
East of Ontario. Okay, thanks. That's CTV's Jonathan McGuinness in Dartmouth tonight. And the Cape Breton Regional Municipality is receiving $2.6 million from the provincial and federal governments to improve transit accessibility. The funding will help the municipality buy 6 accessible minibuses for Cape Breton Transit. It'll also support the construction of 5 new bus shelters, 5 crosswalks, and nearly 2 kilometers of sidewalks. Officials say the upgrades will make transportation more safer, more accessible, and better connected to the existing transit routes there. All right, still to come, some chances of showers tomorrow. Kalen's back with his full forecast, but next, lowering expectations.
Well, we have that, certainly that ability if we want to do that. Yeah, you'll find it.
The U.S. president said he's open to taking a wait-and-see approach to ending the conflict in the Middle East. That story and more after the break.
This is the Campfire Conditions Report brought to you by Pine Acres RV, where customers become friends. If you are in the province of New Brunswick, you are currently allowed to have a campfire. For the province of Nova Scotia, a few counties are permitted to have campfires between 2 p.m. and 8 a.m. That includes Kings County, Pictou, Antigonish, and Guysborough counties, and then Richmond County and Cape Breton County in Cape Breton. The remainder of Nova Scotia, campfires are allowed between 7 p.m. and 8 a.m. And for Prince Edward Island, campfires are currently allowed with domestic brush burning permitted between the hours of 2 p.m. and 8 a.m. The next update to those provincial restrictions will be coming up at 2 p.m. on August 11th.
Welcome back. After weeks of insisting a deal with Iran is in the works to end the war, U.S. President Donald Trump says he's in no rush to do so, and now Iran has delivered demands it says must be met before any talks are to be reopened for the Strait of Hormuz. NBC's Gary Grumba has the latest from Washington.
Wait and see. That's the tactic President Trump is now taking with Iran, telling Axios he's low-keying it with the country, and said he's semi-negotiating an end to the war. But the president says the U.S. is ready to take up the fight again.
Well, we have certainly that ability if we want to do that. Yeah, you'll find it.
It's the latest shift in the president's back and forth with the country, with the war now in its 6th month. At times, he's threatened Iran, while other times he's offered optimism that a peace deal was near. Last week, he said the U.S. was close to a massive strike.
But we were all set for the biggest attack since World War II. And they called me and they said, please don't do it. Let's talk.
But today, Iran said as long as the U.S. blockade is in place, the strait will not open. Iran also demanding the U.S. pull all its military out of the region, never threaten or insult the country, and pay war damages. In a social media post, the president shot back, writing he is, quote, demanding compensation from Iran for all of the people that they have killed and wounded, saying this will be included in any future negotiations. Republicans largely support the president, but at least one lawmaker says it's time for a deal.
We continue to advance in terms of economic pressure, military pressure. There's going to have to be a deal. I think the American public are indicating they're ready for a deal to be done.
Democrats agree a deal needs to get done, but
Donald Trump has lost this war. America is weaker. Iran is stronger. I am prepared to support a bad deal to end this war and reopen the strait, because the only deal that is available at this point in time is a terrible bad deal.
President Trump also facing pushback on another international conflict, this time with key ally Israel. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he will not accept the 15-point plan for Gaza that the Trump administration's Board of Peace had brokered. The deal calls for Hamas to give up its weapons and for the Israeli military to leave Gaza. But Netanyahu says Israel will not be leaving until Hamas disarms. Gary Grumbach, NBC News, Washington.
Get the Maritime's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
And staying south of the border, there's a ton of money up for grabs tonight. The U.S. Powerball jackpot continues to climb with no winner for months now. It's now the 8th largest in history, standing at a staggering $905 million. U.S. ABC's Rena Roy on the Lotto Fever.
Lottery fever across America with the Powerball jackpot at a whopping $905 million, the 8th largest in history. If you stack that money up in $100 bills, that would weigh nearly 10 metric tons, or roughly 2 adult elephants. If you take it in singles, you'd need 28 shipping containers to house all that cash. If somebody wins in tonight's drawing, they would take home an estimated cash value of $391 million if choosing the lump sum payment. The odds of winning one of the jackpots is about 290 million to 1. The largest jackpot was more than $2 billion back in 2022, when a lucky winner in California took home the money.
Now, there may not have been a jackpot winner just yet, but there were still some winning tickets. 4 matched all 5 white balls and won $1 million each in Saturday night's drawing. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
All right, still to come tonight, the humidity's coming down this week. Kalen's back. He's got the full forecast. That's coming up after the break. Stick around. welcome back. We are looking at the Fort Point Lighthouse in Liverpool, Nova Scotia. Still sunny and warm there.
Yeah.
And this is an area that you know.
Oh, I love the Liverpool area. Yep. Usually get down there at least once or twice through the summer. Would love to have been down there on the days with the weather we've had lately. Would
Beach
have been,
days,
yeah, beach days for sure. And today was another one like it. We do have some changes ahead, though, in the forecast. We're going to talk about that. It starts with some returning showers and risk of thunderstorms tomorrow. But we'll begin by taking a look at weather conditions across the country. Vancouver right now, seeing some sunshine, 23 degrees. But the big issue, of course, in BC, and I'm sure many have heard about this, is the ongoing wildfires that have led to some evacuations. And there's lots of extensive air quality advisories in effect for the interior of BC, southern interior, because of smoke from those wildfires. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like there's a lot of rain in the forecast over the next several days, maybe next Tuesday into Wednesday, looking a little bit more promising for a bit more of a wetter weather pattern, but nothing imminent in many of the locations where those wildfires are ongoing. In the meantime, other areas up in the west right now, as we move into the prairie provinces, pretty moderate temperatures, sitting at 20 degrees at Edmonton, 22 at Saskatoon, 24 at Winnipeg. Up north, 19 degrees right now at Whitehorse and 24 at Yellowknife. Cooler, 7 degrees at Iqaluit. It's hotter right now in southern Ontario, both Windsor and Toronto, sitting at 29. And there's actually some thunderstorms, some of them becoming severe in through parts of the St. Lawrence River Valley and through Quebec. Montreal right now sitting at 24 degrees. Here in the Maritimes, still very warm, 28 at Fredericton, 27 at Halifax, 26 at Charlottetown, but then significantly cooler for St. John's, moving up into eastern Newfoundland, currently sitting at 13. On our forecast timeline for this evening, still a low chance of a shower, pop-up thunderstorm in the northwest New Brunswick, but if anything does move in or through, it'll be coming to an end by around the mid to late evening hours. Overnight, a few clouds around the Maritimes, some fog patches. But early Tuesday morning, a round of rain and showers will move into the northern half of New Brunswick. So that'll happen at the start of the day for tomorrow, and there will be a risk of thunderstorms with it. This is from some of the action that's ongoing right now through the St. Lawrence River Valley and through Quebec. Now, that initial round of rain and showers, risk of thunderstorms, passes across the northeast of New Brunswick by around the mid to late morning hours. In the afternoon around the Maritimes, mostly a mix of sun and cloud, but with a chance of some isolated pop-up showers or thunderstorms. And the risk of a thunderstorm for tomorrow includes New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, northern and interior areas of Nova Scotia. Once again, though, those are expected to be isolated, so they are going to be very hit and missed by coverage. Hazards would include lightning and downpours. As we take a look at the winds in the forecast for Tuesday, they're going to be mostly out of the west. They'll be sustained 10 to 20 kilometers per hour with a few gusts between 20 and 40. It's still going to be a very warm night for the Maritimes. Most of the lows only falling into a range of about 14 to 18 degrees. Humidex values keeping it, making it feel into the 20s. Highs for tomorrow in the north of New Brunswick, mostly low 20s. And again, some rain and showers in the morning, accompanied by risk of thunderstorms, lower chance of a shower or thunderstorm later in the day. As there will be for central and southern areas of New Brunswick, where the high temperatures tomorrow will be between 24 and 27 degrees. Prince Edward Island tomorrow, your high temperatures 23 to 25. There will still be some mugginess in the air, as there will be for Nova Scotia. And the high temperatures for Cape Breton tomorrow, 23 to 26, near 27 for the north shore of mainland Nova Scotia. On the eastern shore, between 22 and 25. 24 for Amherst, 27 for Truro. Halifax, Dartmouth for tomorrow, high temperatures near 25, but feeling into the low 30s with the humidity, and feeling into the 30s with the humidity as well for the Annapolis Valley, high temperatures near 27, 24 for Digby. Communities on the south shore of Nova Scotia, mostly with high temperatures of 23 to 26. Taking a look at the extended forecast, behind Tuesday's showers and risk of thunderstorm, humidity will be lower for both Wednesday and Thursday, both looking like very fair weather days, a mix of sun and cloud. Periods of rain right now in the forecast for Friday for New Brunswick, and that's followed by a pretty pleasant looking weekend so far. Temperatures about seasonable, and again lacking that very high humidity that we've had going back to last week. For Nova Scotia in the forecast, Wednesday will be a less muggy day than a mix of sun and cloud for Thursday. Periods of rain in the forecast for Friday, and that's followed by a mix of sun and cloud so far in the weekend forecast, as well as the start of next week. And for Prince Edward Island, behind a chance of a shower, risk of a thunderstorm on Tuesday, it'll be a mix of sun and cloud for both Wednesday and Thursday. Periods of rain in the forecast for Friday, and then looks like it's going to be a pretty fair weather weekend ahead. Jesse.
All right, thanks for that, Kalen. We'll check in with you later for wake-up weather, but coming up next, we'll talk about a gathering of Eastern Canadian premiers and U.S. governors and why it all matters. Stay with us.
Okay, so tomorrow's Tuesday, which means Turk has a game for you.
And you could also win $100 to Shoppers Drug Mart for their friends and family event. Good luck.
The 47th Annual Conference of New England Governors and Eastern Canadian Premiers is wrapping up today in Vermont. Much of the focus was on security and economic cooperation. Nova Scotia and PEI Premiers Tim Houston and Rob Lance attended. Susan Holt did not. Her staff saying Friday she's focused on priorities at home, but it doesn't seem like Holt was the only one holding out. Joining us to talk about this is Dalhousie University political scientist Laurie Turnbull, joining us, I think, in Quebec tonight. Thanks for joining us, Laurie.
You got it. Thanks for having me.
Here we are kind of in the swing of the summer. It's been hot, and here we are talking about premiers attending a meeting with governors, cross-border governors. They do these regional cross-border meetings from time to time. Sounds like there's a bit of a mixed attendance here. Is that normal for something this time of year, or how do you read into the fact that there's some absenteeism there?
Right. I mean, usually the premiers and the governors, like they enjoy these meetings, right? Like there's a nice camaraderie usually, especially on this side of the two countries, where typically these meetings are, of course, they're doing business, but there's some dinners, there's some drinks, there's some enjoyable time where people are socializing, and that's part of it too. And of course, it's always nice to travel this time of the year. I think that the fact that the attendance is a bit spottier, it certainly reflects the kind of political climate we're in the sense that we don't know exactly what's going to happen with those CUSMA negotiations. We've got the threat of more tariffs on August 19th. And so that's really put a lot of pressure on the conversations that are happening now between our trade team and the U.S. And so I suspect there's a bit of tentativeness on everybody's side at this point.
Right, Laurie. And in this case, I think there's some absent governors as well, some citing midterms, things like that. But are these, when it comes down to it, are these regional meetings important now, maybe more so even than they were in the past, given what you just mentioned with the tariffs and the, at times, rocky trade relationship with the United States?
Well, like the different regions in Canada, especially during ordinary time, right, prior to all of this tariff 51st state stuff, the regions have their own relationships with different parts of the U.S., right, where we have strong trade relationships between the Atlantic Canadian side of the country and the New England side of the U.S. And so it's not unusual for us to be having meetings, get-togethers, expos, and facilitate those kinds of relationships, whether between government people or business people, stakeholders, like see what else can be drawn out in terms of potential trade partnerships and things like that.
It's interesting, as we talk about opening up trade opportunities within Canada, we know that oftentimes trading north to south and back and forth with the U.S. was often easier. But given where we are with this Trump administration, it might appear that meetings like this might be even more important to hopefully, produce something perhaps beyond a photo op or a memorandum of an understanding. I guess how important is it to come out of this meeting with maybe something concrete?
I'm not sure if that's realistic.
Yeah.
Given the overall conversations that are happening about CUSMA, what we're willing to trade, like right now, the conversation seems to be, are we willing to roll back the booze ban in exchange for relief on tariffs and key industries? And so those decisions seem to be going through the channels right now at the level of the trade teams, but the rollback on the booze ban would be a provincial decision that premiers are going to have to take on their own. So there's a lot that has to be sorted out here. So I suspect there's a sense of a freeze button on these regional conversations.
And I'm wondering, when it comes to trade, is there anything they can even do at this meeting to push a button? You talked about the booze ban being a provincial strategy. Put your premier's hat on, for example. Let's do a little thought experiment. What would be your strategy? Say you were an Atlantic or Maritime premier heading into these meetings.
It's relationship building is really all you can do at this point. Key trade decisions, what we're to concede.
Didn't he say he was harassing me or something?
It's, who knows? You can't make those decisions on the ground.
Lori, is there one thing, like one concrete thing or issue coming out of these meetings you'd like to see perhaps addressed, or perhaps something, a strong statement of pointing towards something or some kind of deal or agreement?
I mean, it would be interesting to me to see what the American side says, whether they seem to express any interest in continuing trade partnerships with Canada. Will they speak to the value of those partnerships on the American side? That would be interesting for us to hear. That would be kind of important for us to hear at this point. I think I would be very surprised if there was anything meted out by way of a concrete deal. I don't think they can do that.
Yeah.
But the tone, right? Is there still collegiality in the room? Is there a willingness to work together? Do they say anything about what they think Trump or Jameson Greer is got in mind for next steps, right? Like that kind of thing.
Is it fair to ask who needs who more right now, at that table?
I think that the trade partnership works both ways, right? Like in some of these, like Trump likes to use these big, broad generalizations. And he wants to make us think that we owe him, that there's a trade deficit and Canada's taking advantage of the U.S. and the U.S. doesn't get as much out of this. But if you talk to somebody who owns a business on the U.S. side that's close to the border and they rely on Canadian traffic, you rely on, you talk to business owners, restaurant owners, like, all kinds of things in the U.S., someone who owns a hotel, an Airbnb, and that Canadian traffic has dried up on them, they're in crisis.
Yeah.
And so, those kinds of meetings that are happening right now, that's where you're having those conversations about the real impact on Americans.
Right, or some real diplomacy on the ground happening there. Thanks, Lori. We'll have to leave it there for the sake of time, but thanks for this conversation. Always interesting to watch, and we'll be watching what happens on August 19th when we expect some of those threats of tariffs, the 50% tariffs, to be imposed on a range of goods. That's Lori Turnbull. She's a political scientist at Dalhousie University. Thanks, Lori, for your time. Now, stick around. We've got much more news on the other side of this TV timeout. In the Lifeline tonight, new data from the World Health Organization is shining a light on the troubling number of measles cases in this country. CTV's Amanda Debison has more.
Measles data from the WHO shows that Canada has half the number of confirmed cases as the United States, despite having a population only about 1/10 the size of its neighbor. The WHO says Canada has recorded about 1,100 measles cases so far this year. That's half as many as the 2,200 cases reported across the U.S., despite Canada having a population only about 1/10 the size of our neighbor to the south. Roughly 186,000 measles cases have been reported worldwide as of July. That's a 12% increase compared with the same period last year. New research suggests that lifestyle changes can help prevent dementia. In a study published in Neurology, researchers tracked more than 12,000 people over 25 years and believe avoiding 3 things in middle age may help lower the risk of dementia. They found that people who entered old age with normal blood pressure, no diabetes, and no history of smoking lived 13 years longer without dementia than those who had all 3 of those risk factors. Finally, in the U.S., Kellogg says it's expediting its plan to remove all artificial colors from its cereals. It intends to start making Fruit Loops and Apple Jacks without them soon. Kellogg says the new versions could reach American retailers before the year's end. The company says it's also using new equipment that will allow it to transition to natural colors. Kellogg says it's also removing BHT, an artificial preservative, from the small number of cereals that still contain it. Kellogg has faced pressure for years to remove artificial ingredients from its cereals, which it has already done in other countries like Canada. With Health and Medical News, I'm Amanda Debison for the Lifeline.
All right, you know what that means? We're on the scene. Now, 3 movies at the weekend box office have each made more than $1 billion worldwide. And could any of this weekend's new movies compete? CNN's David Daniel has a look at the top 5 films in theaters over the weekend.
I want to talk to you, device.
Not touching, Jessica.
$3.9 million gave Toy Story 5 a domestic total of $470 million. It's over $1 billion globally.
Well, well, well. If it isn't the old-timers passing the torch to the new generation.
Super Troopers 3 opened in 4th place, driving off with $4 million.
Finding love is hard enough. Try doing it on the one night a year single people were legally allowed to have sex.
One Night Only made $5.7 million to debut number 3.
We won the war.
The Odyssey stayed in 2nd, earning $31.5 million, reaching $461 million domestic and crossing the $1 billion mark worldwide.
I didn't know you could get that big.
Spider-Man Brand New Day is huge. The superhero flick took in $145 million in its 2nd weekend out, for 10-day totals of $655 million domestic and $1.7 billion worldwide. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
With Aaron and Peter. 10 questions, 60 seconds. If you know all the answers, you're winning $1,000.
We play $1,000 Minute every weekday at 7 a.m.
Okay, over to the markets. The Dow ended the day down 60 points. A Vancouver-based menopause drug is showing a blockbuster potential, and it has investors taking notice. BNN Bloomberg's Lindsay Biscaya has more.
A potential breakthrough for menopause symptoms gave Abcelera a major boost. At one point, up as much as 41% today. Shares of the company surged after Abcelera says a mid-stage trial of its menopause treatment succeeded. The drug significantly reduced the frequency and severity of hot flashes. It's a hormone-free antibody therapy and could provide an alternative to menopause hormone therapy. The potential success of this new drug could also prove to be a meaningful milestone for Canadian biotech. At this point, though, the drug is still in mid-stage development. And here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is up to 71.74. West Texas Intermediate also finished the day higher, up to 82.13 a barrel. Western Canadian Select is up to 62.06. And yet another record high for the TSX, closing 77 points higher to finish at 36,458. Those are your business headlines. I'm Lindsay Biscaya.
All right, there he is outside. Kalen Mitchell on the weather deck. The humidity factor, what's it looking like out there?
Yeah, you can still feel a little bit of the mugginess in the air, but again, that's going to be coming down as we head into the middle part of this week. Otherwise, a beautiful evening out here in the north end of Halifax. Let's take a look at our viewer video for tonight. So earlier we talked about the weekend thunderstorms, and we saw some footage of lightning, and here's a little bit more. This is coming in from Rexton, New Brunswick. Was sent in from Nora LeBlanc. Lots of lightning. And you can see that some of those thunderstorms pack some downpours. Rexton for tomorrow in the morning. It's going to be some showers moving through, and with them, a risk of some thunderstorms. And then for the rest of the day, it's a lower chance of a shower or thunderstorm, about 30–40%, high temperature 24 degrees. Day planner for tomorrow, some rain and some showers crossing the north of New Brunswick. First thing in the morning, risk of thunderstorms with it. In the afternoon for the Maritimes, it will be a mix of sun and cloud, and there'll be some isolated showers and thunderstorms that do develop. But again, they're going to be very hit and miss in their coverage. Let's find out what's ahead on your Morning Atlantic.
Tuesday on Your Morning Atlantic, do you believe in magic?
Of course. Magician Bill Peterson will join us ahead of his performance at the 2026 Fundy Fringe Festival.
Start your morning with us Tuesday on Your Morning Atlantic on CTV2 and Crave.
All right, thanks. And finally tonight, some old and rare video games have surfaced, and they're worth millions. A box of old Nintendo games found in Wisconsin turned out to contain nearly 100 copies of a previously unknown version of Super Mario Bros. And Duck Hunt. The person who sold the box to a video store claimed Nintendo had sold the cartridges to a metal recovery service and to be melted down for gold, but they were never destroyed. Some of the cartridges are in perfect condition, and 3 of the cartridges are set to hit the auction block this month and could fetch millions. All right, that's a look at the day here at home. I'll be back here filling in for Bruce Frisco tonight at 11:30 for your late news. And remember, CTVNewsAtlantic.ca has all your updates and the news that you need to know. I'm Jesse Thomas. For now, have a good night, everybody. We'll see you later.
CTV News, the Maritime's #1 newscast. Watch live on Crave.